You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks and Zach Bechtold. We hope you enjoy this week's show, and you can find out more about us by going online at beardedtheologians.com, where you can pick up a few t-shirts, listen to a few old episodes, and find ways that you can connect with us. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold. And today we have a very special guest on the podcast. We have Reverend Dr. Ben Gosden with us. Ben, thanks for being on the show with us this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Big
Absolutely.
fan of y'all's.
Oh, thank you. We'll buy you lunch after the podcast then. No, Ben,
he really
thanks
wants
for being...
the coffee mug. That's really what he's shooting for.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, by the way, my beard is about 2 weeks old. I'm not going to say I grew it out just to come on your podcast, but I didn't want to be the weirdo who didn't have one.
No, you're great. It's beautiful. I love it. Saw on your Facebook that you wear bow ties also. Big fan. So
I do. Yeah. I less so now. Only pastor nerds will appreciate this, but I switched to an alb, and the alb cuts you like right here at your neck, and a bow tie, there's nothing. It's like you're being strangled. The black robe that I wear during Lent, let you showcase a bow tie. So when I was an associate pastor in Macon, that was my thing. Like I wore a bow tie every week. But when I switched to the alb, I quit wearing ties in general a lot of weeks just because I'm like, less around my neck, the better.
That's right. Yep. I don't wear a robe very often. I go the other direction. But when I do put on a robe, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, and it is spring, it is Lent, it's almost Easter as we're recording, and in the South, it is bow tie season. So
that is correct.
Yep,
that is correct. I love it. Well, you're a man after my own heart. So, well, Ben, let our listeners know a little bit about yourself. Where you serve, what you do, what you enjoy doing, what your perfect date is. Those types of things.
Yeah. So I serve as pastor of Trinity United Methodist Church in downtown Savannah, Georgia. And by downtown, I mean in the heart of downtown. So if you're ever vacationing in Savannah and you're going around the historic squares, there's a square with a historic Methodist church next to a museum that used to be a mansion for a very wealthy family. And I'm the pastor of that church. So we were right here in the heart of downtown. I've been here for this is my 9th year, and we just announced I'm coming back for year 10. So it's been a minute that I've been here. Been in ministry about 15 years. I was an associate in Macon, Georgia, at a historic downtown church. I think there's a thing there for me for 4 years, and then I was 2 years across town at a neighborhood church that we ended up merging into a multiracial new church start with 2 other churches. So. 3 churches, about 15 years. So I've been doing the vocational ministry thing for a while. I am the proud husband of Katie. My wife is a nurse practitioner and right now serving as a school nurse at a local high school. And I'm father of 2, Olivia, who's 13, and Sam, who just turned 8 last week. Very full life. Love riding, love lifting weights. Love just experiencing midlife. I'm 42 now, and if you told me 10 years ago that your 40s would be this much fun, I never would have believed you. So
right. Yeah. Both Matt and I are in the same boat. 40's been a blast, right?
You remember when we were young, like our parents had those over the hill parties, with the black and all the stuff, and I'm going, I think we're still young. Like some lifespans changed, some shifted, but God, I feel better at 42 than I did at 32.
100%. I'm like, I feel great right now.
Yeah.
I slept wrong the other day, my back hurts, but otherwise I feel great.
Well, my big thing now is I'm going, God, I am getting a little older, like the gray in the beard and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, the doctor just gave me a CPAP machine, which makes me feel old. And then what makes me feel even older is I'm getting the best sleep of my life all of a sudden.
Right.
I'm like, holy cow, where has this been? So, other than those little age things, I feel young and great.
That's right. I'll take it.
Yeah. After I got the new hips in, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
and that's really the case. Like literally, after I had both hips replaced, I feel I'm probably in the best shape I've been in probably almost 15, 20 years.
There you go.
Love it. Well, we're not here to talk about aging. We're here to talk about your new book, Grace Rediscovered. Ben, tell us a little bit about it.
So the other way I introduce myself is I tell people at meetings where I'm not a Rev Doc or anything like that. I'm Ben and I'm an alcoholic. I'm a little over 3 years sober. So if you do your math, where I just described, that means that the vast majority of my ministry thus far, I was a functioning alcoholic,
Hmm.
and I'm just kind of upfront and frank about that now. I'm sober one day at a time, thank God, and it's a daily work that I do. But yeah, I mean, I got sober January 1st because I'm a cliche, 2022. And so I was a father, a husband, a pastor, all the things, and I was a functioning alcoholic. I knew like in late 2019, and I talk about this in the book a little bit, early 2020, I knew that there was something. It was a thing I couldn't manage. I couldn't change. Like I would wake up feeling, like a car hit me, and just go through all the hydration and the ways you get over hangovers. And for a lot of people, it's like, oh, that once a month when I go out with friends or my wife, and I'm going, no, that was every day for me because I was a daily drinker, and I just getting tired of it. And I would say, I'm not drinking tonight. And just without even thinking, I just automatically 8:30 p.m. would hit, and I would just pour a drink, and we're off to the races. So I knew that there was something there, and I was trying to be sober. I had like a whole 90 days of sobriety in early 2020, and then, like most pastors, mid March 2020 hit. The first Sunday that we went virtual, I had a group of like 3 or 4 people who were helping us just do an empty sanctuary live stream situation. We went to lunch because downtown Savannah, you go out to lunch and the restaurants weren't closed yet. And we're all young, and everyone's like, let's go to lunch, let's go have a couple drinks, just nice little brunch experience. And a friend there said, aren't you not drinking? And I was like, yeah, but these are extreme circumstances. And it was like I had never stopped. I was just off to the races. So the pandemic, like many of our vices, just kind of amplified it. But I knew by the end of 2021 that there was something I really just needed to change. The last 6 weeks of the year is a mixture of stress and celebration because my birthday, Advent, Christmas, New Year's, all the church stuff that you know about, the parties, all the things. It's just this never ending cycle. And I was just burnt out. From the grind of it all and just feeling like trash. But I think more than that, I was burning out spiritually and vocationally. So the book is just kind of recounting the last 3 years of just, I took a sabbatical, which I didn't tell my church people at the time. I was 7 months sober and spent the whole month where most pastors who do sabbaticals, their SPRC lets them do. They're like, oh, I'm going to go travel and do. I went to meetings every day. And I spent time with my family, and I went to the gym. That was what I did. And it was almost like a self-imposed rehab. So yeah, the book really goes into my sobriety, but more than that, it's kind of a 12 steps for everyone book, because I think we're all trying to recover from something, and we're all struggling with some dis-ease within us. And so for me, the 12 steps are a spiritual plan to help, through the power of God, to help us begin to work with those dis-eases that are within us.
Ben, thank you for sharing your story. It's an important one for all of us to hear, right? You're right. We're all going through something. We're all trying to recover from something in a lot of different ways, but especially coming from clergy people, from pastors who have lived that out, especially with alcohol, right? We know amongst our profession, that's a big one.
Yeah. Well, and you want to be the cool pastor, the non-judgmental pastor. You want to be the one who's like, yeah, I'll go do beer and hymns, or, I'll go to happy hour. And that's cool. And I could do that. But what no one knew was that I was coming home and having half a bottle of gin when you weren't around, when no one was around.
Right.
It was secrets.
Right. Yeah, those things we do behind closed doors, right? And struggle with there. It's huge, and we don't talk about that enough. I don't think as clergy, because I don't know. I found myself in that place of if I'm that vulnerable, will my church, still respect me or still listen or still want me to be their pastor or view me as a pastor, right? Because I'm not perfect. We all know we're not perfect. We talk about that a lot in our church. Like, look, I'm just like you guys. I don't know all the answers. I don't do this right every day, and yet it's about showing up and how we show up in that way. So I appreciate you sharing that story. I've got another pastor friend of mine that worked with a long time ago, watched him go through recovery and walk those steps and come out of it on the other end just a better dad, a better husband, a better pastor, just better all around person, but continues to share a story and continues to show up at meetings and it's just it's a good vulnerable place to be. I hate that people go through it, right? But to find that help and find that space is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to do what you said, I took a sabbatical and I went to meetings and showed up for my family. And that's what I needed to do, which is a lot of us probably could put down the workaholism and go spend some
Oh
time with
yeah.
our family, right?
And there's an entire chapter on workaholism in the book. I mean, I think there's so many different ways that any addiction for me is a compulsive behavior that helps us avoid what's really happening inside of us. It's the distraction. It could be an addiction to doom scrolling on your phone. It could be an addiction to cable news. It could be an addiction to social media. It could be an addiction to food. It could be porn. It could be television. Whatever it is that helps us escape in a compulsive way rather than dealing with what's right here. To me, is the addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how you frame that because it's spot on, right? Like we all have something. Yeah.
Well, and I think that like we overlook those things and we just, for drug addiction or alcohol addiction, we're okay with like being in that space, but not recognizing those other things that keep us from healthy relationships with friends and family or healthy relationships with God. Like that stuff also gets overlooked. And I remember like at the beginning of Lent this year, I was talking with someone and they were talking about, hey, I'm giving up chocolate for Lent. And so I always ask the question when someone says they're doing that. So how does that affect your relationship with God and your family? And they just like, they took a step back and like, well, it doesn't. I'm just giving up something because that's what you do. I was like, well, that's really not what you're supposed to do. Like we're supposed to do something that helps us reconnect with God. And so ask yourself like and so just asking yourself like how does that affect your relationship? To me is a really key thing in dealing like just being honest about where you're at and what's going on in your life. And I know like for me about this time last year, I was getting this like I've got to get off my butt. I got to like get out and be in the community, like just do something versus just sitting around at coffee shops or going to all the things. And so like I just did a whole bunch of research on what sport refereeing just seemed interesting to me. And so like I did a cost analysis of which one would be the cheapest one to get into. And so soccer was the cheapest one to get into. And I got into that and have had a blast with it. Like I'm felt healthier than I've never had before. And I think when we find those spaces of where we can have a healthier space, it can help us grow in a lot of ways. As you're putting like as you were kind of putting this book out, what do you think your biggest challenge in sharing what you had learned through your experience was?
I mean, I guess I would say the biggest challenge is staying sober.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
It's funny. I'll tell you what the biggest challenge in living is, because I think the sharing of the book for me follows just learning how to live. I've never been comfortable in my own skin. I want you to like me. I want people to like me. I'm not sure that I'm whatever I am is worthy of being liked or loved or so I work hard. I'll make you laugh. I'll succeed. I'll do all the stuff, be the best pastor, the best preacher, the best whatever's, as long as you love me, right? That's what I'm really aiming for. My daily prayer has really become my first daily prayer. And let me back up and say, I was a pastor for many years and been in church my whole life. I've never prayed the way that I learned to pray in recovery.
Hmm.
The 12 steps have taught me to pray, like to really pray. Not just the laundry list of things you want or, your gripes to God or whatever. I mean, but like really pray. And the third step is that we make a decision to give our life and our will over to the care of God as we understand God. Um, literally evangelical Christians would say this is what it means to give your life to Jesus. What we know in my United Methodist tradition is that that's not a one-time thing. I mean, y'all know this, and that is a daily decision to give our life. Bonhoeffer would say that we die to Christ. Christ calls a man and bids him to come and die. Mother Teresa said that that's a daily thing. We die every day, so that we can be raised with Christ, and that's what giving my life and my will over to the care of God is. And so, one of my prayers I try to begin with every day is acceptance. God, help me accept life on life's terms today, which means to live life open-hearted, open-handed, not try to, we want to monkey wrench things, people, circumstances. Everything's got to happen the way we want it to happen. All the things need to be the way we want it. How do I just live today trying to accept life as it comes to me? Which in turn means learning to put my whole, as we say in our baptismal liturgy, to put my whole trust in God's grace. It's living our baptism. And so that acceptance piece is a difficult thing every day. Little things like I prayed this prayer of acceptance this morning and I'm driving to the gym like I do all the time. 5 minutes later, I get to the gym and realize that whoever was scheduled to work slept in and we're all standing outside waiting to get in the gym. You know how easy it is to get pissed off and start your day in a rotten mood? And I'm already mad and it's 5 a.m. and I'm like, you got your day aligned. I'm like, prayed that prayer of acceptance. Okay, can't do anything about it. We learn that we cannot control people, places, or things. We can only control our reaction to them. That's a big challenge. If I can make small steps toward living into accepting life as it comes and not trying to control people, places, or things, and just trying to worry about myself, I think I can do a whole lot more than I ever imagined when it comes to sharing my sobriety story or being a pastor or a father or other things that are vitally important to me. But I get in my own way because not only do I want to be good at them, I want to control the terms under which I operate. And I just can't do that.
Right.
So I guess to answer your question, what's the biggest challenge? Learning to let go. Learning to just calm down. just calm down, let go. It's cliche to say let go and let God, but I mean, seriously, it really is, God, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to trust that you do, or that you'll lead me there one way or the other.
Yeah. I that seems to be, looking at your chapter list, that seems to be your through line, right? Accepting all of the things, right? And you begin with accepting our powerlessness, right? We just have to show up.
Yeah.
Right. We can't control the things that go on, and other people and how they do and how they respond. We just have to lean into how we respond, right? And
Yeah.
accepting that that's okay, which is huge for me, right? Like, yeah, I'm one of those that will let people ruin my day, and get real grumpy about it for 2 or 3 days
Well, and I
afterwards.
have a term that I stole from recovery that's in the book, but it's a whole section on right sizing ourselves. How do I
Mhm.
become right sized? In business terms, you'd call it scaling.
Mhm.
How do you scale? And for a lot of us, it's that our egos are so big that, we've got to come down to a right size. You can't do, there's a joke I mentioned in the book, old fellow in recovery said, what's the difference between you and God? And I'm going, what? He goes, God doesn't go around trying to be you. And
Yeah.
it's like, got me there. So right
Mhm.
sizing is how do we come down to our proper size in relation to God? But sometimes right sizing means we have been beaten down and belittled to a point that we don't think we're as big as we need to be, or that God wants us to be. And it's expanding ourselves to our proper size to take up the space in the world that we really need to. You can drink about and do all the vices about either one of those incongruencies. So getting into that proper space means getting into better alignment with who God made me to be, and frankly, just learning to love it. I don't know that I knew how to love myself.
Mm.
I can tell you about the ways God loves you. I'm not sure that I really could believe all the ways that God loved me.
Mm.
That's a very powerful um, realization, right? Reality. Because I think a lot of us are in that same boat, right? We spend, as pastors, we spend all of our time letting people, trying to point out, like, here's where God loves you.
Mhm.
Here are all of the many ways. And then we sink back into ourselves and go, yeah, but I don't know about me, right? Yeah, I fall into that all the time, all the
Yeah.
time.
I'm looking at a picture, Zach,
Mhm.
above, I guess it's your right shoulder, but it's the left of my screen. And rightfully, on the right side of Jesus is Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
And when I was a kid, I mean, there's a whole thing I've talked about with my therapist about why he was a hero of mine. It had to do with childhood trauma and, parents who were either absent or screaming at me all the time or each other or whatever. But these mantras he would come up with, I love you just the way you are.
Mhm.
I, we spend so much time in Christianity saying God loves you as long as you change. You got to change, but it's like what changes us is the reality that God loves us just the way we are. The change kind of follows. For me, coming to terms with that power, I think more than just this theoretical thing I could preach and teach and talk about for others, I think I'm sober every day because I know a little bit more that God loves me and I can love me too.
Yeah, that's yeah. I definitely think that that's um I would definitely say that's something most pastors probably don't recognize. Like it's easy for us to teach the concepts, it's easy for us to talk about it all we want to. But the real question do we actually like know that? Like
Right.
and not just know it in a sense of knowing information, but like actually practicing it and living it out in our lives. And I think for the first time, Ben, you left us speechless, like in a
Hmm.
sense of like
Yeah.
we were like having to wrestle with that space. And one of the things that Zach and I have tried to do over this last year is to help us see God more in our daily lives. And so when we get together, we usually most of the time will end the podcast saying, "Hey, where did you see God at work this week?" And just that practice alone has helped me in a way that I didn't know how much it would affect me. I thought at first we would do it. I literally thought at first it'd be one of those things that we do for a little bit on the podcast and then it just dissipates. But we have found, like, I know I have found it to be an important part of just that almost ministry decompression. That sometimes
Hmm.
we get bottled up with all this stuff that we don't get a space. We don't have these spaces where we can really put this knowledge and recognizing where God is at work in our lives to use, and we just kind of like store it up. Oh, that would make a good sermon someday, or and that's what, like, it gets filed and we don't ever do anything with it.
Yeah.
And it sits and festers to the point where it just becomes irrelevant or a difficult space. And I think it's vital to be able to practice it as well. Like I like how
We're
you kind of,
self-giving to a fault.
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, this is a great nugget. I got to give it away in a sermon or a Bible study. And we feel selfish. We say, nope, this is just my nugget.
Hmm.
Nobody gets this but me.
Yeah.
I get this glory sighting just for me.
Just for me. Yeah. And we're really good about asking other people the question, and going around the table of, hey, where do you see God at work? And then it gets to us and we're like, all right, now moving on, we're going to pray and get out of here. And
Yeah.
we never
Do
answered the
y'all do
question
y'all
ourselves,
find
right?
that it's the taking off of the mask?
Yeah.
Do you struggle with that? The taking off of the mask, the you put on the mask of being the pastor, and how do you take it off just to be Matt, just to be Zach?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There I consistency is important, right? Like I try to walk into any room I go into the same, but also people expect differently from me as a pastor than my family does. That my family doesn't need me to be their pastor, right? They just need
Right.
me to show up and be husband and dad and Zach. And it took a long time to figure that out. And not leave the church and walk into the house and be like, I'm home.
Yeah.
Right. Everybody pay attention to me because that's what I just did all day long was people pay attention to me
Yeah. Yeah.
and what I have to say. So yeah, no, it took a long time to definitely learn that and let that go. And I've been fortunate to have parsonages within a block or so of the last couple of churches I've served, and I use the walk down the alley as a way just to start shedding those things and leaving
Yeah.
them at the
Good.
door and leaving me at the church and come home. But it took a long, long time not to bring that stuff home. And to be present, right? To be present
Yeah.
with my family in a way that they need, in the same way that the church needs me to answer, where do I see God at work this week? That's not in a sermon, or not in a way that I can circle it back around in a Bible study, but just to be like, you know what? I don't know. Or here's where I've seen God. Both of those being, I talk a lot about in our church of I don't know is a good and faithful answer. And often I say in sermons or wherever I can of, I don't know if I know the answer to this, but we're going to talk about it anyways. We're going to find it out together, and we still may get to the end of the day and go, I don't know. And for me, that's part of taking the mask off so that people can be themselves also. Because I think even our church members do that quite a bit, right? They come into the church or the pastor's office or for a Bible study and have some kind of mask on,
Sure.
because it's hard. It's hard to be that kind of vulnerable all the time.
Well, and we work really hard to be pastors. It takes a lot of schooling. It takes a lot of practice. I mean, all the things, and it's a deep and meaningful calling. Sometimes I have to remind myself, I don't know about y'all, that I don't know that the world necessarily needs another pastor, but I think sometimes the world needs Ben or Zach or Matt. There's a uniqueness to that separate from the office. They can be in conversation, but ultimately, it really is about how you, the person, embody all the different things. Even if it is like, hey, I've got a mask on and here are the different ways. Like the self-awareness piece is just like, yep, can't be truly myself here, just so y'all know.
Hmm.
I curse a lot more at home, all that kind of stuff. But it's okay as long as we're aware of it. I think for me, it's when I believed the mask version of myself and denied the true version because I thought, well, the mask version is better. He's more talented. He's more articulate. He's smarter. And the real version is kind of weird, nerdy, just basic and ordinary. And I think what God's telling me is like, no, 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 no. I called that real version to do these things. Stop just being that. Be you.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely struggle. So I'm an Enneagram 3,
The
which
achiever.
tell, yep, which if you know the Enneagram tells you a lot about me without saying anything, right?
Do, do.
Yeah, so disconnecting from that achievement and what I do is who I am is so big and so hard. It's
Yeah.
so hard.
Yeah.
But we have
I
to, right?
bet I bet Henry Nouwen's stuff probably speaks to you deeply, doesn't it?
It does all the time.
Yeah, because Nouwen would say all that stuff's just bullshit. Like
Yep.
Yep.
you are beloved the
Yep.
moment you wake up before you've achieved a thing.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I it's one of those deals when people are like, man, we just love you, right?
yeah,
Like just you, yeah, not Pastor Zach, not just you.
yeah.
But
You're enough.
yeah, but love me as a pastor too, right? Like exactly what you started talking about. Like
Yeah,
it's hard work.
Well, I definitely think like for me, so I'm a 6, and so what threw me was COVID. Like I had plans, and the what with COVID having to pivot like we did, that wasn't part of any of the scenarios. Like I was not seminary did not prepare me how to prepare a congregation for a global pandemic, and I want my money back
Yeah.
because I wasn't prepared, and that definitely threw me in a spiral in a way. And I had to learn. I think the biggest thing I think I've overcome because of COVID was blessed are the flexible, for they bend, and learn how to be it, even if I don't have a plan, to be flexible with it. And there have definitely being able to let go of like having the plan,
Hmm.
or at least one plan or several options. Deep diving into having multiple plans for things. Just being able to let go and just ride it wherever it may take me. And in some ways it's worked, some ways not so much. Still trying to work through that, but I know that when we you definitely lean into the idea of just being self-aware and having a self-awareness that's key. I had a woman come up to me last Sunday, or just even like yesterday, was like, "Oh my gosh, you're doing so much for us, and you're doing all these great things. You're doing more than most pastors have ever done for us." And in the back of my head, all I kept thinking was, "I'm not doing enough. Like I feel like there's more I could do, but I feel like I'm doing enough right now." Like, and I just like, I didn't say any of that. I just like, "Oh, thank you, thank you for recognizing that." And I'm doing all that I can so I don't burn out. And I really, like, in my head, I am as best I can. And I think that your self awareness that you've brought out for us today to be aware of, I think is key for anything, for anybody. Doesn't matter if you're clergy or lay or not even in the church. I think just having that self awareness is key to a healthier life.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea of making plans, I'm a big planner. I mean, I've got my planner sitting here. This is my day sketch. I mean, all the stuff. Um, but it's an expression of power that I have to acknowledge I don't necessarily have. I can make plans as aspirational things, but ultimately the day will unfold as the day, unfolds. The flexibility that you mentioned there, but also being flexible with other people is hard because I want everyone else to be as organized and planner as I am, and they're not.
Yeah.
And, and to that point, I was in a meeting a week or so ago, and somebody brought up the idea of expectations. And one of the unhealthiest things that I think that I do, I don't know if y'all can relate to this, is I am the world's biggest trader, dispenser of unspoken expectations. I will come into a conversation with you and have expectations of you that I won't tell you about, but I'll have them. And if you meet them, great. If you don't meet them, now I resent you, you know, or I mean, I can do this to my wife. I can do this to church people. I can do this in any number of ways. All these expectations of how things should turn out because this is what I think should happen. I won't tell you about them because I'm much too polite and passive for that. I don't like confrontation. But deep down, I'm carrying all these resentments because it's like, nope, you didn't do it. You didn't do it. You have no idea you didn't do it. But in my heart, you didn't do it. You screwed
You didn't
up.
do it. Yep.
And I can do that to myself. Now, those I can just say, like you said, oh, you're doing so much and you're going, I don't do nearly enough. To unpack that, it'd be like, what else do you think you need to do? Like to measure up is the question. Not, what's wrong with this lady, right? But that's an internal spiritual thing that's I, I think it's the cost of discipleship.
Hmm.
How do we deal with the real stuff in our life in a way that we can be a pastor in the most authentic way, in the most honest way, the most true way, the most faithful way? Stop pretending quite so much and just simply let a quote I give my people all the time, and they're probably tired of me saying it. Thomas Merton said that I want to be a window through which God's light can shine, and to just simply be that window, right? That comes from a personal journey of discipleship. For me, recovery, sobriety, that's my spiritual program. But it leads me to the cross to better understand what does it really mean to follow Jesus and put my trust in him.
Well, and I really, really appreciate you wrapping this up in wrapping up grace in the act of sobriety, right? In that journey, because it doesn't happen overnight, right? Like it takes work. In for you just to up front and name that one, and to name each and every day, right? It's I wake up and I do this each and every day, which is a beautiful insight and response to what we believe in Wesleyan grace and how that moves us forward. And um, the word acceptance, right, throughout your whole book and what you've been talking about. I mean, that's grace. That's all grace is acceptance, right? And how acceptance and how it frees us, how it moves us, how it gives us strength, how it helps us let things go. Because we can't do anything but accept it and accept that whatever's happening is reality, and we can't change it. So
Yeah.
let's move forward and see what we can do. See where
Great
God is
grace for
working.
me. I thought about this recently. To sum that what you just said was so beautiful up. Grace for me is learning how to not live in a past that we cannot change or in a future that we cannot control, but to simply live in the present that God gives us.
Yeah.
That's grace, and it sets you free because you don't have the shackles of that past you can't change or the future that you can't control. It's trying to not live the divided life of I'm here but I'm really there, or there I'm. It's learning to simply be here and say this is enough right now, and that God's here, and God can deal with the past, and God can lead me toward the future, but we do it a day at a time.
Yeah, I love that. And I hope that's what our folks take away and go and buy your book and work it one day at a time and find that space for them to rediscover grace in that way for them, and how it's moving, how grace is moving in and around and through them in a way that's hopeful. I don't know. We in the Methodist, United Methodist Church, we talk a lot about grace all the time, but probably not enough, right? Like I don't know that we can talk about grace enough. Um, and that may become from that personal place of I need it just as much or more as anybody else, and I don't think I talk about that part enough, right? Like I'll own that I need to lean into that. I can talk about it for everybody else, but for me, not so much. Not a lot of grace for myself. So, yeah, like Matt telling I think about all of the ways that I haven't shown up. When people are like, "Oh, you're so busy. Thanks for being here." Let me tell you about the 10 things I didn't show up to, that I wasn't present at. Uh, I need to rediscover that grace and accept I can't be 10 places at one time. But that's a tomorrow issue.
Well, it
Um,
goes back to what we talked about even last week with Matt Rawl, the idea of grace in motion. The grace is
yeah.
always happening, and it's up to us to recognize it in our lives, not only just in our lives. Um, it's easy to recognize it in the lives of others, but I loved how Ben kind of reframed it for us this week of saying, how do we recognize it in ourselves? Like, how
Mhm.
do we recognize God's grace at work in our own lives? And to be aware of that. Like, I don't think we do that well enough. And I think it's we'll be even more Wesleyan here. We're trying to practice it to do better about that, to grow into that more. And it's something that we haven't really. I think clergy definitely probably struggle the most at it in a sense of recognizing it in their own lives versus like it's easy to see, hey, like look at this person, they're doing an amazing thing, like they're caring for their community or whatever. But then when you ask yourself like how are you doing that, you're like, oh, like I show up to some, like I show up. But are you then the question is, are you really showing up, or are you just being being a presence?
Sure.
Right. My Wesley theology professor in seminary taught us that we tend to apply sanctification, John Wesley's notion of growing in grace in a very Western way, which is usually a cause and effect. If I do this, then this will happen kind of thing. And he said Wesley had a very Eastern understanding of growing in grace. It was much more growing in this greater awareness of God's love in your life. And that's why Wesley believed you can be perfected in grace, and that you can have this mystical, perfect knowledge of the love of God in your life. It's hard to measure that in if then statements, but you know it when you feel it kind of thing. And that's the piece of recovery. That's the piece that recovery has brought me to, is a greater awareness of just the sheer power of the presence of grace in my life that has very little to do with what I achieve or don't or do, or it's just simply God leading and me just getting out of the way. So yeah, I mean, I hope this book is for parents who want to be better parents, because it's helped me be a better parent. I hope it's for spouses. I've become a better husband. For pastors, good Lord, we need to recover something fierce. Workaholics, I mean, the whole 9 yards. It is a 12 steps for whatever it is that you have a dis-ease in your life. I hope this can help touch on that. For me, it was a part of it too, was midlife. So if you're out there kind of our age of that 40 and you're doing the two halves of life, like Richard Rohr says, how do we have purpose and meaning in midlife that's different than building a career? It's like, live into the things that really matter. And for me, the 12 steps have led me there to deal with tough stuff, because that's inevitably part of it. But you have to deal with the tough stuff. I can tell you today, and I would not have said this 3 years ago, I'm an alcoholic, and that is one of the greatest gifts of my life, because it's led me to a place where I don't know that I would have known God's love and grace the same way. So I'm actually in many ways grateful for my disease on a mostly daily basis. I mean, yeah, when you go to cocktail parties, you're the oddball with the club soda and lime. But I don't know that today, I don't know that I would trade feeling like an oddball for 10 minutes at a party for all the other things that would follow. So I'm grateful for the disease. I'm grateful for our brokenness, because it leads us to God.
Yeah. Ben, I love that. I was going to ask you for some more wisdom, but I don't know. That was beautiful. Thank you.
So, where's the best place to pick up your book?
Let's see. It's Whiff and Stock, WIPF and Stock is the publisher, but it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Cokesbury. Someone told me is even on their website. I made it as a United Methodist if you're on Cokesbury.
That's right.
But anywhere that you buy books, you can find Rediscovering Grace by Ben Gosden. If you get it off Amazon especially, I would love a review once you've read it. That just helps more and more people find this book that will hopefully help some hope and healing grow. So I'm grateful for that. And then I have a website, bengosdencoaching.com. I try to do a little bit of one-on-one coaching, really guided by the 12 steps. I love to work with clergy, partly because we can just talk as colleagues, and I have literally no competitive investment in you at all. It's just, a couple folks who understand ministry, but we can grow better. I've gone through a lot in ministry, and I would love to help other clergy come to a healthier place. Especially, you don't have to be clergy to do the one-on-one coaching, but I have a real heart for clergy too. So you can reach me there, bengosdencoaching.com.
Cool. We'll make sure we include that in our show notes for you. So, yeah, we want to thank our listeners for listening, and we'll have how to connect with Ben in the show notes through his website and all that stuff, and how to buy the book. We'll definitely link to that, so you can pick up a copy of that. And so for our listeners, thank you for listening. You can go on our website at beardedtheologians.com and look at all of our past shows. And then don't be afraid to pick up a few items for, Father's Day, Mother's Day, graduation day, Pastoral Move Day. All those are coming up, and those are great gifts. What a great opportunity to give a gift to someone than giving them a bearded theologian. And it's even funnier if they don't have a beard, to give them a bearded theologian's piece of equipment. And so for the Bearded Theologians, I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out,
guys, and like this video and push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.